Hello, everyone. I'm Bridgit Danner, and I am my own expert this week on the Facebook expert series that we do mainly every week on a variety of topics, sort of functional medicine based, detox based. And today I wanted to talk about my Toxic Mold Masterclass that's coming up starting February 21st through about March 6th. If you end up missing it is no big deal because it will be evergreen. It will go on forever at the same link, so you can find it later. I'm just going to pull up the correct link to it. I apologize that I didn't do this sooner, and I'll show you the page. I wanted to especially share today what I learned that I thought was exciting and sort of cutting edge or developing or just a good little nugget from this event. And I'll take some questions too if there are some questions live that come up. This is challenging me to, actually, I know a faster way I can do this. One sec. I'm finding my own link here. Let's see. So while I'm doing this little housework, a little bit about me. I was already a practicing acupuncturist and newly certified functional health coach when I pretty soon after that discovered my own mold situation. I was quite sick. I was actually sick for a while, up and down. Until I found out I had mold. Probably 7 or 8 years. I was dealing with just a lot of symptoms with breakthrough bleeding, anxiety, insomnia, gut health issues, immune depletion, getting sick often, chronic pain. And I was just kind of chasing it. That's really why I learned about functional medicine, because nothing was really helping me from my toolbox I had in Chinese medicine. So then I started to learn about functional medicine and the adrenals. And I'm really thankful I did that. And I was having some improvement until I really hit a new low. I got strep throat. I did not recover from that. I was completely exhausted. And this was a time period where I just started working at home exclusively. So no coincidence there. Plus it was winter. We had some water intrusion in our basement. And luckily somebody asked me about my home, about my environment. And that started me down the process of learning. I got sicker because of remediation errors. And it took me a long time to crawl out of that whole thing, years, really. I ended up moving to the desert, selling my clinic, and it all has worked out really, really well. And over time, as I became really passionate about detox and regain my health, I really wanted to share what I knew about mold. So I have this mold masterclass I'm going to tell you about in a sec. I also have this book, or at least a picture of it, because I don't have the paper. I might have the paper copy in 2 days, which is really exciting, but it's really the first I have seen of its kind, which is like a start to finish guide, home, body, emotions, everything. So I'm really touched. Something I did not share in my story was I got into natural medicine because I was an environmentalist from a young age. It's just what I was. So I got into natural medicine, but then I was sort of building the clinic, doing the things. I lived in Portland, Oregon, so I didn't really need to educate people about the environment, which is partly why I got into it, until I got into all this. And I also moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I realized there's still a lot of people who are not educated on household toxins, the other ones besides mold. So it's been really rich for me to return to this. And my audience for a long time was in women's health. So you may have found me that way. So, not everyone is necessarily going to be affected by toxic mold, but a lot of things that I teach about detox can really benefit you for anti-aging and energy and gut health. Plus, I think it's just really important to be a good steward of your home. So our audience, our community, they are good stewards of their own body. And that house piece may not be fully appreciated for how much your house affects your health. Indoor air quality is worse than outdoor air quality. I think it's something like four times worse, 10 times worse, I can't remember, is worse. So being in your home makes you sicker than being outside. That's kind of where we're at right now. And one of those things can be toxic mold. So let's cut over to some images here. And I just want to read the questions real quick. Pamela said, I'd like to learn what's new with mold testing, diagnosis, and treatment, best ways to start. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty well like summarizes what a lot of people are interested in and what I've been talking about. And I do really want to give some little tidbits that people may not be thinking about that really came out on the masterclass. I'm also going to share a bit about the format because we may repurpose this video for people who did sign up but didn't really get a chance to watch it all. Maybe they purchased it and they want to sift through what they purchased and make the most out of it. So I will do all of that. So one thing that people ask me is, should I start with the home or the body? And, people are coming to me at different stages of the process. So it depends sort of where you're at and how deep you're already in. But to some extent, I do encourage you to start with the home, or it can be a workspace or an RV or a boat. But the home is usually the main thing because we're there the most. So we're getting the most exposure if it is in our home, but it can definitely be other places as well. So a bit about the format of the event. Unfortunately, this doesn't list like the day by day, but I'm going to tell you the day by day because I formulated it that way. And every day I do a little talk. So day one, I get into the basics of mold, and then we talk about the home. So I think the home is a great place to start. On day one, we have Brian Carr here developing a home testing plan. We have Matt Pratt Hyatt with remediation and a little bit more about testing, Mike Rubino about remediation, and JW Biava about home testing. So it's a whole day about the home plus my little intro. Honestly, if you even just attend this day, it's going to answer a lot of questions from you. These are a lot of experts. One thing about home testing that is debatable, and it's just the way it is, what's the best way to test? And I actually encourage a step back from that question and first say, have you visually inspected this place for signs of water damage, touches of moisture, the smell of mustiness? Has there been some kind of incident? So, you can start with that for free, so to speak. And then whether you rent or own is an important question. If you are a renter, you're not going to hire a mold inspector to come in. If you are an owner, I actually encourage you to hire a mold inspector to come in because you don't just want to know, are there signs of mycotoxins in my dust? You want to know why there's mold in your house. So, I think the dust testing is interesting. It doesn't necessarily solve your problem, right? About why there's mold growth in your home, especially toxic mold growth. So just for the, since it's a popular question, I'll go over it a bit more. JW's company offers a plate test. It's not perfect, but it's very affordable, and you can put them in many areas of the home, which is very helpful. You can also tap it on your dog. You can tap it on food. You can put it in your cubicle. You can put it in your car. They're very affordable, and they will do a consultation for you. So that helps a lot. That's a great option for a renter or testing your workspace, that kind of a thing. Let's see, what else for testing do we have here? Someone I interviewed who's not on this presentation is Jason Earl from gotmold.com, I think it's called. He has just created a home air test. So an air test can be imperfect in that the air needs to be circulating to collect things. So there's probably some instructions he has with the test, and a good mold inspector will kind of agitate the air. And a mold inspector can take air samples and also drywall samples and take tests on those. A mold inspector will also look for moisture in the walls, how your gutters are draining, if there's any moisture in the attic. One thing I learned on the summit from Jeffrey May is that 100% of crawl spaces have mold, 100%. He's never found one without it. And then one thing I learned from Brian Carr on the event is airflow is a big factor in how mold moves around the house. So you can have mold in the basement and it does come up, or mold in the crawl space. So you can have mold in the walls. So he kind of shed some light on his day one talk on where to look and how to look for mold within a home and how things could be missed. So other than that, there is a mycotoxin dust test done by Real-Time Labs. I like that in that it measures for what's most dangerous to my clients, the mycotoxins. They do not offer a good interpretation. That is a real weakness of theirs, in my opinion. And what else? What are some other options? Then there's the ERMI, which is also a dust test. Someone like Brian Carr, who's had a lot of experience with them, does know how to read them and interpret them. But for most of us, it is not helpful. It wasn't designed for this purpose. And it's just kind of, I've seen a lot of people's ERMIs and they can't kind of make heads or tails of it. And it's not that useful to me either. So sometimes we get hung up on testing and strains of toxins, strains of mold, when really we need to look at the issue of where is the water damage and how are we taking care of it? And then what are we doing with our belongings that have perhaps been affected? So that's a bit about it. The body is pretty simple right now. The best test is a urine test. I have Dr. William Shaw talking about that. Where is he? This guy right here. He is really helped to spearhead and develop these techniques, and they didn't have these 10, 20 years ago. So it's an at-home test. It's quite easy. I've only seen one false negative. You do have to be kind of strong enough to be pushing out mycotoxins, but it's a pretty straightforward test. So I hope that answered your question on that. So day one, you're going to learn a lot about the home. Day two, we get into body symptoms and testing. This is Dr. Shaw's day, as well as I had Kashif Khan. It was a super fun interview. He's a great speaker. He's with the DNA Company, which is a home saliva test for different DNA markers. And he went over my results. I paid for the test before I met him. I approached him later because I thought what he did was a good match for what we did. And they were sponsors of the summit, which was really nice. But some things I learned from him are, we another way we get hung up is there's one gene that's gotten famous for tagging mycotoxins or not tagging mycotoxins. That's the HLA-DR gene. That is not the only gene around detoxification. So please don't, oversimplify on that too. We have many genes involved in detoxification and sugar handling, and all the things. And then we have genes that affect how our personalities are, and that's going to affect how you approach mold. So that talk was really fun. That's on day two. And Mary Ackerley is also on day two. And to be honest, it may be my favorite talk of the whole bunch. I know I shouldn't pick favorites, but this is Mary Beth Ackerley right here. She's Harvard trained psychiatrist, I believe. She's looked at thousands of brain scans of people who've been affected by mold. And it just really touched me to see how much mold can affect your brain. And that it's just sort of, how can I say, it helped explain some of the crazy that I was experiencing for a long time and take some blame off myself. I mean, she talks about how areas of the brain can atrophy or engorge and inflame. And then they either way doesn't work correctly. And then she talks about a variety of natural solutions to work through it. Everything from, exercises to like mind body therapy to supplements that are very accessible. So I thought she was a real gem, and that's one I think not to be missed. Day 3, I called Simple Ways to Detox and Rebuild. So this is more getting into the foundations of detox. So everyone wants to get into the sexy supplements and IV therapy and stuff, but make sure you are pooping, make sure you're drinking water, make sure you're getting outside, getting exercise, eating real food, and taking the basic supplements like magnesium and B vitamins and fish oil. So it's a day a bit dedicated to that. I was super lucky to have Gabrielle Lyon come on. This is her right here. She's got a really fun Instagram account. She doesn't do many of these events, and I was just happy to have her. She has diagnosed some of my friends with mold. She's really an excellent practitioner. She's also worked with a lot of people in the military, and a lot of them have been exposed to mold and other toxins as well. She talks about the different ways that men versus women present when they've had mold exposure. She talks about the thyroid connection and the muscle connection. So she's a big fan of having muscle mass for health and longevity. And she talks about why and the best types of protein. It's something that I learned in my mold journey. You really have to exercise to get well, even though you're tired. But that kind of turns everything on, and then you get better. And now I'm learning it too. I actually used a glucose monitor for 3 months. I may be the only one who gained weight on my glucose monitor because I was eating a lot more protein and I'm gaining muscle mass. And it's not really a bad thing. So especially with aging, you want muscle mass. It increases insulin sensitivity. It's a very active tissue. So she talks a lot about that. That was one of my favorites as well. Ari Witten is right next door to her here. He was just interviewed me today for his podcast, and I was teasing him that he's a really busy guy and he doesn't do many of these events either. And I just always keep bugging his team until I get a yes, because he's a great speaker. And this talk is really wonderful. It's about cellular energy. We do, you can always click on these to see it here, but so eating, fasting schedule, breathing. He goes through a technique for breathing for anxiety and energy. And then he talks, I don't even remember this part, melatonin and hormesis. He's just a really interesting speaker. He's got some great tidbits. So that is on day 3 as well. And then Jason Prawl, who's also one of my favorites. He's another California boy. Where is Jason? Jason has really switched his emphasis, because he's functionally medicine trained, into more mind, body, spirit. And he's got some exciting things coming out around that. Here's Jason. So he talks about the nervous system and the limbic system and trauma, as does his neighbor here on the left, Eva Detko. Eva's on a different day. I think she's later in the event. But they talk about a similar thing, but not exactly the same. So I think Jason focused a little bit more on the nervous system and trauma. Here's some description. And how when you are in chronic stress, and many of us are, even when we think we're not, because our baseline is, I know I admitted I really had a hard time coming down from that. And when you've been exposed to mold trauma and your limbic system and your brain have been affected, it can be very hard to come down, to calm, to really, really heal. So he talks about that. It's super interesting. And then Eva is a little more focused on the vagus nerve. That's her specialty. So those are both 2 super cool speakers. Day 4, I focused on detox techniques. So we have sauna, diet, and histamine, which isn't really a technique, but whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry about that. Let me fix that real quick. Okay. So let's see, we've got Gail Clayton, who is just so lovely. And she's got her own mold story about getting exposed working as a pharmacist in a hospital. She gets very nerdy about foods and antioxidants. So if you want to nerd out, come to this talk. Almost every presenter made slides. And so it's just they're very strong presentations. They aren't rambling conversations like you'll often get at these summits. They are just super focused presentations. Let's see, Connie Zach from Sunlighten. You may have seen her before from other interviews. She gave a great new interview on some studies that have come out about sauna for detoxification. I'm a big sauna proponent. It's what helped me the most probably in my journey. So that's a good talk to help convince you to buy a sauna perhaps. And then we have Beth O'Hara. I was super excited to have Beth on. Here she is talking about mast cell activation, why those of us with mold illness have also a histamine issue, what that even means, what are the symptoms, what can you do about it. We have a great conversation because this is a very widespread problem. I think a lot of the symptoms we experience are related to histamine overload. So I'm not going to get into the whole thing now, even though I'd love to. I love this topic. I would just say tune into her talk. It's day 4, which will be the 24th of February when it's live. Okay, so day 5. And just by the way, every day I do a talk. So on this detox techniques day, I'm going to talk about my favorite techniques and supplements and do like a show and tell. Day 5, I called it Detox Experts Weigh In because I have some people who are really big names in this field, like Jill Carnahan. Again, hard to get on a summit. Amazing, just an amazing human being, had a lot of great things to say about how she approaches a protocol. And one of the things that stood out to me in her talk and some other talks was the focus on the limbic system. The limbic system is kind of a primitive system for emotional reactions and fight or flight. And when you become traumatized by this enemy of mold being inhaled through your nose, we're going to talk more about that. It can be hard to recover because like I mentioned with Jason Paul, your nervous system is in fight or flight, and that's not where you heal. So it can be difficult to take supplements and get good reactions from treatment when you're in this state. So she's actually talking about shifting the beginning of the treatment to calming the limbic system. There's different programs for that, but there's actually a lot for that. There's essential oils, there's meditation. So I thought that was one of the most interesting things that came out of that event. I don't think you'll see and hear very often this emphasis on the limbic system anywhere else. And you'll see that bouncing around all through this event through these really cutting edge experts. Also on this day, speaking of inhaling things, I loved Margaret Christensen's talk. Here's Margaret. She's focused on hormones and really explained how, we breathe through our nose, and then all that information, which is spores and VOCs and mycotoxins from mold, is being processed right here and breaking down the blood-brain barrier, going into the limbic system, going into areas of the brain, going into the hypothalamus pituitary axis, basically wrecking your command center quickly and immediately through inhalation of these things. So she gave a great presentation. It was actually really fun. I've never interviewed her before. It was really fun. Well, I've never interviewed her so formally before, and she did a whole slide presentation. So it's phenomenal. Definitely check it out. I've been speaking a lot about how much your hormones are affected on various interviews because it's underappreciated. You could be having weight gain, erectile dysfunction, infertility, PMS. It's all from mold because it's inflaming your hypothalamus pituitary. It's burdening your detox systems. It's upsetting your gut where you also detoxify. It's inflaming your cells. It's a long list of ways that your hormones can become disrupted. So great talk by Margaret. Last person on this day, besides me, because I'm talking every day, is Dr. Jabin Moore. Javin is just a little young hotshot, if you ask me. Um, he's a young chiropractor who was very sick from living in a moldy apartment while he was in chiropractic school. He went from being a big star athlete to very sick. He found out he had Lyme, but he talks about the connection between Lyme and mold and parasites. Basically, another theme that came out of this, which I agree with, is that the real reason we get so many infections is because our immune system is so depressed from mold. So if that's part of your story, and it may be, if you have any chronic infection like Epstein-Barr or Candida or Lyme disease, then think about, the mold origin. Do you have it in your immune system? And so he goes over some of his protocols and stuff like that. He's really a lovely speaker, and he did a slide presentation as well. So that was day 5. Day 6, I called specific detox ideas. So just a little more specialized. Again, I have Eva Detko this day, and she talks about vagal nerve toning. It's a really interesting topic. Carrie Anania works with biobotanical research, and she talks specifically about the gut, how it's broken down by mycotoxins. She really got into the mechanisms and different examples from the literature. And then she talked about different solutions. Everyone's going to have to debug and recondition their gut if they're going through this process. Brendan Vermeer, I don't know how to say his name, does a lot of work in the mycotoxin mold space. And he talked about some mental health issues around mold, and also how it relates to the gut and how to kind of rev up your metabolism as part of your healing process. Okay, so that's day 6. And day 7 is the last day. I called it avoiding home toxins. So as you move forward, you may be multiply chemical sensitive, and you want your home to be a safe haven now. So as you think about building a home, repairing a home, purchasing things from the home, you want to make good choices when you think about cleaning the home. So sometimes, honestly, the last day of the event doesn't get its full due because it's a Sunday and this and that, but please don't miss some of these talks. Jeffrey May, I found through a book he wrote. He's been an indoor air assessor for a long time. He's written several books. He gives some great affordable tips on home air cleaners, places to look in your home where mold could be living. You won't find him on any other event. So come see him on this one. And then Laura Adler, where is Laura? Laura is a good friend of mine who specializes in other toxicities coming from plastics. And, we didn't get super deep. Laura has like incredibly deep information. I encourage you to take her courses. She's an expert on things like seafood and cookware and all the things, but we cover some of the basics and we kind of cover how chemicals affect you exactly in the body. And then she gives you some quick wins. And then lastly, my friend Evan Brand over here. If you don't know Evan's story, he built a custom home with all the best materials. And then I think there was like a hose left on, and there was water in some hidden place in his home, like a crawl space or something. And he moved out of the home, he left it. So he's a really strong advocate of his own health. Like a lot of people will hem and haw about staying in a home, and he was just like, nope, I'm done. And I think he's building a new home now, if I'm not mistaken. So he gives a course from one of his own like home building course materials about choosing paints, choosing an air filter. If you know Evan, he's just like ferocious in his research, and he gives some very specific recommendations on items you may want to purchase. So I think that's it. If you do purchase the event, you get quite a number, about 10 bonus talks as well. Some of these people just didn't make the time cut. So we've got Donna Gates talking about Candida. She's like a legend in the gut space and a good new friend of mine. Kieran Krishnan, who you guys love from Microbiome Labs, is talking about, he actually just busted out a mold protocol for us on the call, a mold protocol based on like your gut health. So he talks about the ingredients and why, and it's super cool. Again, your gut's going to be wrecked, and their products are very gentle. So it's a great way to rebuild the gut, and it's going to take a while. So they're really fantastic products to know about. Scott Forsgren, who I mentioned, gave a long talk on his 11 steps to detoxify. Scott is super knowledgeable on things like EMF and amalgam fillings. He goes over a ton of stuff. My friend Marisa Snyder and I talked about blood sugar handling. That is a part of weight and energy. So those are two issues many people are dealing with mold. And we had just a fun talk on using a glucose monitor and some other things. And then two more. Kevin Connors talked about the mold cancer connection. He's a new friend of mine. He did a great job supporting the summit. Super cool guy. He's been in this space a long time. Was anyone talking about mold and cancer? No. How many people have cancer? Like 1 and 2 or 3 now. Also dogs. So Dr. Shaw in his talk talks about dogs and cancer and mold. Dog food is moldy, so disgusting. So that could be something to think about for your pets as well. And then Christine Schaffner, again, should have been on the main thing, but sometimes just schedules and everything don't work out. I think we talked about lymphatics and gosh, I can't even remember, but Christine has such interesting information. I always am learning new things from her. We definitely talked about like certain little things she's found, like nasal sprays, and she's just like always looking into like these cool little solutions you can do for various things. We talked about, I think, lymphatics in the neck and scarring. And so you can go nerd out with Christine. And then there's one more. Amy Capadia talks about SIBO and mold connection. So that was a cool one as well, especially if you're experiencing bloating and GI distress. So depending on when you watch this video, you can sign up here. If you had already purchased it and you're seeing this video later, or if you watch it on the free replay over time, I hope that was a helpful just going over the whole thing and how you can utilize it. And maybe if you jotted down a few of your favorite talks that you want to definitely catch, that is a way to do it. Any questions live? I know we only have a few people live here. Well, while I check on that, I want to show you something cool, which is we just made these mugs for our company that says, get after it. So it's to go with our electrolyte, which is, kind of something I want people to take in the morning to just get hydrated and get balanced out. So we're just giving these to our colleague friends, but I wanted to see if you guys thought we should sell these too on our site. I think we might do like a little combo sale in some time and do the electrolyte plus this just as a fun thing. It's nice to have these stainless steel tumblers so you can reuse them as well. And if you haven't seen our electrolyte, it looks like this. I don't know if any of you guys have tried it yet. It's the first in our little special mold series of formulations. So we have a binder coming out around May 1st. And we also have some of our other favorite supplements like CoQ10 and broccoli seed, glutathione. And then we have our favorite foundationals like a good multivitamin and magnesium in our shop as well. Yeah, thanks, Pamela. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I can wrap it up. And just thanks to everyone learning about mold with me. A special thanks if you are just curious and you don't know if you're really affected, but you're just open-minded to learn. I think that's a great way to go about this and learn how to care for your home better, so that you can have a healthy home environment. Moving on, I've got some questions about preventing mold, and it's such a great question. You know, we all need to think about this stuff if we live in a home, which is basically everyone. So, you know, learning to wet dust and, you know, how to buy products that aren't going to off gas and how to manage your humidity are all things that we covered. Yeah, Pamela brings up a great point. You don't have to do it all at once. I really discourage that because we talked about that nervous system needs to be as calm as possible to heal. And that's not going to happen by trying to change everything at once and getting stressed out. So, you know, I'm a practitioner and a owner of a body, and I go about things slowly. It's actually probably one of the areas in my life I have the most grace is around my health and my body. I think being chronically ill taught me that you need to just go little by little and chip away and try new things and, you know, just follow one thread at a time because your heart tells you to. And all those little things add up to great change. I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in my clients. So there's your little inspiring message. Sign up if you have not signed up. And if you have purchased it, there's a little guide to getting through it. And if all you do is make it through this video for the next couple of weeks, good on you. Like, again, learn at your own pace as well. And thank you for learning with me. We have lots more to share. So just stay in touch. We want to keep supporting you guys. All right. Thanks, everybody.